Welcome to DPV. I'm Josh, and today we're working on the Big Chief. So the plan today is to clean up the engine with some degreaser and then pull the pan off to see if the bearings in the running 360 are good. And if everything looks good, then we're going to put all of my new parts in this motor and just abandon the other build for now. We're going to use Easy Off oven and grill cleaner, just completely drench that motor, get it warmed up, and take it to the car wash and spray it down. So let's get after it. I got everything sprayed down, sprayed it underneath as well. So let's see if we can get this thing fired up. Let's get it warm and go spray it off. This motor needs torn out too. Well, we'll see what the bearings look like. Well, I forgot to get a plastic sack for the air filter, so I'm just gonna have to be careful. All right, it looks a bazillion times better. We'll see if it starts now that I saturated the motor with water. But I gotta get home and get out of these wet clothes because it's below freezing right now. So now that I'm soaking wet, whew, it's quite chilly. Cool, no problem. Alright, it's probably easiest to show you how good it looks outside, so I'll show you how clean the motor looks before I pull it inside. Oh man. I mean, I wasn't going for perfection. I was going for don't get too much water inside the engine. But man, that degreaser stuff works really good. Check that out. It's gonna be a lot nicer to work on. All right, so lighting's gonna be a little bit of an issue under here, but plan is I'm gonna get this pan pulled off here. So I gotta pull the starter, gotta pull this brake line. Had a busted brake line, and so this is all Napa had at the time we fixed it. So it goes literally underneath my motor. Alright, so yeah, just starter and this brake line, and then I should be able to pull this pan. There's really nothing else in the way. These transmission lines will push right out of the way, so I'll get that pulled off, and then we will see. If these bearings are any good. Hopefully they are, and we can just build this motor. in place. All right. I don't see any chunks of metal in there, so that's good. It's a little milky, but that could be because of any pressure washing around all these gaskets that were leaking, so it's a good thing I'm changing the oil. I'm not going to use this pan. You can see it was it got smashed at one point, and they re-welded in a bung, and it looks like bubblegum welds. So yeah, I'm not going to use this pan. I'll use the one that I've already cleaned up. Now let's see how those bearings look. I'll pull a cap off and we'll check it out. These are a lot better. I mean, they're not into the brass, so. I think it all looks a lot cleaner too than that other motor. Yeah, that doesn't. The other one you could feel ridges in it with your fingernail. This one you can't. So I'll pull maybe one off in the middle. I don't want to pull them all off. I pulled all of them off on the other motor and they all looked the same. So I think if I pull two off and they look fairly good, should be good. Maybe I'll pull one rod bearing off just to check. And then I think we're gonna go with this sucker. Yeah, baby. Just pulled the third main bearing. And this one's showing a little bit of the brass, so I guess it doesn't have any like big old grooves in it, and the crank feels good. So I guess I'll throw some plastic gauge on that and see just how bad it is. Alright, last time I went to Napa, they only had two different sizes. This one goes to 0.001 to 0.003. From factory, this is supposed to be 1 to 2 thousandths clearance. So this might not catch it if they're that far worn. The other one that they had was 0.009 to 0.02, which if it's this bad, this motor's junk. Alright, so this is how plastic gauge works. You just cut a little strip of it, set it on your bearing there. Got one there, got one there. And then we'll just put it back under the Jeep, torque these bearings back down to spec, and see how much that plastic gauge squishes. You can measure it, the little gauge that comes with the plastic gauge. And however fat it squishes, you can see what your clearance is. So hopefully this plastic gauge is big enough for what we need to do. Alright, you can kind of see where the plastic gauge was. Right there. I'm not going to be able to measure it with one hand, so let me see. So you're just going to line up these measuring marks with the width of the plastic gauge. That is so sweet. That one measured 0.0015, which is exactly in the middle of where we want to be, so very happy with that. Let's see what that other one measures. Sweet. That one is between 0.0015 and 0.002, which is, again, is within factory tolerances. So we got a builder here. I am pretty excited. All right, I'm gonna pull one rod bearing just to double check. See what we got here. All right, not too bad. Crank looks nice and smooth too. So, pretty freaking sweet. I'll show you guys how to change this rear seal. So it's a two-piece seal. And basically, just gonna take like a punch or a screwdriver and try to tap that thing around the crank. I might need to loosen this cap. You can't see it. Yeah, might loosen that cap just to relieve a little pressure on that back side. And yeah, just tap that seal around, and then we can tap the new seal in. So hopefully we don't have any more of that going on. Yeah, that helped to loosen up these main caps. You can see I should focus. There we go. You can see I kind of tapped it in a little bit. Kind of see it on this side. Try to grab that sucker. Yep. Just like that. Nice. Now to put the new one in, you want to put a little oil on it so it's lubed to slide up in the hole. Alright, the high tack is getting sticky. The way this front cover gasket goes, see that little notch? See that little notch there? That is for that right there. So it actually goes underneath the pan gasket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of RTV right there. I don't want a lot, but just enough to kind of hold it in place. I'm also going to put RTV on the block where this gasket meets the cork gaskets on the front and back. Alright, yeah, so I got a little dab RTV there. You see it, some RTV there, and on the other side, this rear gasket here, I can pop into place underneath. And then we'll just try to pop that pan up there. Alright, got the pan on. Whew. Grease on my face. Oh, thanks. Yeah, looks pretty good. And got the starter in. Get this cover all cleaned up and put back on. Gonna run a Napa and grab a filter and see if they've got any brake line to make a new brake line. Yeah, so part one of this investigation is not over. last thing we're doing on this video, fix up that front brake line that was all janky going underneath the engine. So we did that because had a brake line that broke right at where it connects to the soft line to the caliper, and all we could get at the time was a 5-foot piece. So we just went from the distribution block on the driver's side over to the passenger side under the motor. But this time Napa had a 25-foot roll of 3/16 brake line. So we're gonna do it right this time. You've seen me do this before on the Ghetto Glider, so I'll show you again how to put a double flare on. But first thing we're gonna do is bend this line all in the shape that we want underneath the Jeep and cut it close for the length that we need. I'm not really gonna be able to show you how to do that underneath there because there's just not a lot of room for the camera and myself. But basically, just gonna use this cheapy bender. I know Alex is probably cringing right now that I'm still using this, but it works. So we're gonna run it. All right, well, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that this looks good, but it'll be functional. So there it is. This is where it goes to the proportioning valve or distribution block, dropping down below the steering box, across the cross member, and over to passenger side soft line. It'll be functional. Now just hopefully I can get these ends on first time. Also another thing, brake fluid feels really terrible in your eyeball. And there are days that you should wear gloves. Today was one of those days. Didn't get all the grease off the bottom of the Jeep. But nonetheless, let's do a double flare on these brake lines. Going to deburr this a little bit. This is 3/16 line. So 3/16, and how you set the depth on this guy, you're tubing through and set the depth by lining up the tubing with your first flare tool. Okay, then this guy goes in there. Basically this is gonna like curl the end. Okay. Now it's really important and kind of tricky that you get this thing started square. Looks pretty good. Then start crushing it. Mushroomed out there. This is how you get the second flare. That looks okay. Hopefully it'll seal. Looks like it's a little thin on that side, but we'll see. Doesn't look too bad. Nice and mushroomed. Too bad. That one looks better. So, alright, we'll see if the dang thing holds. Alright, now that it's in here, Actually doesn't look too bad. Go on the frame rail. And under the steering box. Up to the distribution block there. So, a lot better than going across the bottom of the engine. Alright, well, that is as far as we're going to go on this episode. So, I got that brake line fixed, and then most importantly, looked at the 360 that is in the Jeep currently, and those bearings look good. So, I'm not going to pull the trigger on parts yet, because I do need some new gaskets, since I can't reuse all the gaskets that I bought for the other motor. But I want to get these heads pulled, see how the cylinder walls look. Should do a compression test too while it's assembled now. But if the cylinder walls look good, then I'm just going to put the cam and intake and those heads that I did the 3-angle valve job on this motor and not do anything to the bottom end. If the cylinder walls look like this thing could use some new rings, if I end up having to ring this motor, then I might as well, buy new bearings, even though those bearings looked usable for now. So we shall see. I have to, like I said in the last video, I got to get the 1-ton kind of fixed up in preparation for building the house or moving to a new house or whatnot. I anticipate that it's not going to be too much longer before we find the right place, so I need to make sure that the 1-ton is ready to go. So we'll be doing that, the exhaust, the front end, and a few of those odds and ends to make it just a little more enjoyable to drive. And then we'll jump back on the Jeep and start tearing this motor down in place in the Jeep. So thank you so much for watching this video. Wheel it, wreck it, wrench it, repeat. We'll see you next time.